excited to have you here in the Leadership Now series. If you are new to this platform, the reason why we created this, and Jason and I were just talking, so much happened within the COVID pandemic time. This was a dream of mine for the last 2 years, and we never had time. And when the pandemic hit, it was like, well, now I have all kinds of time. And so bringing in thought leaders and mentors and role models who have a message to teach us and to create a community of like-minded people is why we created the Leadership Now series. Typically, we have them on Tuesday at 11:30, yet due to the election, if you haven't voted, go out there and vote. We did this Monday, and so Jason he gets to be our special guest. We're missing next week because I'm at Bold, and on November 17th, we actually have a really big surprise. Dr. Ralph Kilman, who is the co-creator of the TKI, the Thomas Kilman Conflict Instrument, is going to be our guest. He has written over 20 books. He has written over 100 articles, created over 10 assessments, and his passion is all about conflict management and change management and quantum transformation. And so you want to be and learn from this gentleman. He is incredible. So to launch this, I'm gonna end this poll. I just want to say, Jason Lindstrom, I am so beyond excited and honored to have you here as my guest. You and I were talking, way back in April, I made a list and you were on the top of the list, and I actually reached out a couple times and it was quiet. And I always believe that there's a right time. And as I was looking at the election and the things that were happening, you just jumped in my heart. And when I reached out to you, you said, I'm in. I'm like, okay, so you're gonna launch this week. So I'm gonna do a quick introduction and then just jump in if I missed anything.
Cool.
So those of you who do not know Jason Lindstrom, I had the honor of working with him years ago, but in 1991, Jason joined the United States Army and served our country for almost 10 years, and I'm so grateful that you served our country. You met Masie prior, you got married when you guys were 18 years old, and the one and only Masie, you have 4 children, Makayla, Courtney, LeAnn, and Kyle, and I can't believe that LeAnn is getting ready to drive. I don't know where the time's gone. You transitioned out of the military, got into real estate, and have served over 20 plus years in the real estate market with being a real estate agent, a team lead. You were a general manager, a partner within Keller Williams. And when I met you, and I was thinking back, it had to have been like 2006, you were known for taking underperforming businesses at Keller Williams and turning them to just creating massive results. And then you transitioned and you went to work for a company, leadership company that you and I worked at Rapport for a little bit. In our lives, there's no mistakes, Jason. There's no messes, there's no mistakes, there's only learning opportunities. And I wouldn't be where I'm at today without you. And I just am so honored that you were in my life. And I would just want to say thank you for being here. And do you want to add or share anything into my introduction?
I am so honored. You are a huge, and Eric, mentor in my life. I appreciate the kind words, and I love that you acknowledged the military chapter in my life, even more so my wife and kids, because 28 years married since we were 18. I've known her since I was 12, and all 4 of our children. My oldest is 25, Makayla. Courtney turns 18 tomorrow. LeAnn just turned 16. Kyle's 10. My 4th one was my son, which was by accident in Masie and I's mind, but not since we've learned in a spiritual sense because of the story that unfolded during his birth and him being here with us today. And my family means the world to me. And I love that we can talk about our family, our relationship with each other, Mary, and of course, Eric, Rapport Leadership International, my professional career with Keller Williams Realty. Yet above all that, I love that we get to talk about people.
Yes.
I think this year is incredibly important to connect in a real way with people to help them really thrive in a time where some, and that some is more majority of people than less, unfortunately, are struggling and nervous. And although they have reason to be concerned, uh, they've got to tap into the power that they all have, that you have, that I have, even more so. It's there. You know, the way to overcome this year is in all of us. And I can't wait till we get on that topic today.
I know. Well, and so even we're going to get into the topic, but I just have to say this because when I say you gave us wings to fly, one of your topic is overcoming the art of justification. And I remember years ago at Rapport, you were the president and you pulled me into your office and you said, Mary, you are meant to do great things. Yeah. And whether it's with Rapport, whether it's with your own company, I'm all choked up. You can do a blend, but you're supposed to do what you are called to do. I'm like, what president of a company calls someone in and says, you know, if you're going to do your own company, I want to support you. Let's figure this out together. And so many people, they justify, they make excuses. They think, well, I can't do this, or I can't, or, you know, I need to do this or that. And you always came from this place of an and so why is the overcoming the art of justification so important to you?
Well, I've two responses to that. The first one is me. I think I fell, I did fall into the trap in February and March this year. When this year, 2020, started heating up with COVID. Yes, it's an election year. The fires that have happened, the other natural disasters with hurricanes that are going on now, the different aspects of the racism topic that's out there. I started going back into a cave and got very afraid over what might happen throughout this year. And although we're still in it, thank goodness, I recognized as a person, with the help of my own children and my wife, that we started justifying to ourselves to make ourselves feel better about stopping what we really wanted to do in our life, because we put the brakes on, you know, very quickly on us. So part of why this is important to me is because I got stuck for about 30 days and then got unstuck with the help of my immediate family. We were all quarantined together. We had each other, like all of us, right? And it made me remember a lot of things that I've learned from you, from Keller Williams, Gary Keller, our founder, my time as a student in Rapport, my time as a student with with Driven Leadership. All of that, I had time to process and get myself back on track. And then since then, like we were talking earlier, I've had more quality conversations with people with real content, with real important topics to make me realize that, oh my gosh, you know, I wasn't the only one stuck in March. And then I realized I may have gotten through that, hopefully permanently, but life has a way of throwing curveballs at all of us. But I see a lot of people still in the state of mind that I went into in March. And by listening to them and speaking carefully and never discounting their feelings, I was able to slowly inspire some. Some are still in pain. Some are still stuck. And yet some have moved through to the other side like we have. And I'm so ready to celebrate them every day. And yet I'm still reaching back to people that might be there in that difficult spot, because I don't want anyone to be there. Anyone that I can touch a single life and help them get out of that place and realize that life is going on. We are on the clock. We only get one of these. And forgive me if I get a little intense and passionate, but it's who I am. I'm not going to sit back and let somebody fall and not have someone next to them when they need to get up. I'm just not going to. And so what I realized in all those conversations and where I was is that people started developing a skill without even knowing it. And that skill was justification. They begin to find ways to justify using all these greater things that we don't control as a way to put people down and pin them down and hold them down and put them in a dark cave. And I don't want people to live there. And if I can be in on this earth through God's words to hit someone in the heart, Mary, I love that you have me here today, because even if one person gets up today that's down, then we did our job today.
Well, and that's what I've always loved and admired about you. And I said, even every time I look at John Maxwell or listen to him or hear him, you pop up into my head, because at Rapport, you came from the military, you came from Keller Williams, and you believed in systems, you believed in owning and creating a day, and not just, woo, it's a pipe dream, right? We're gonna hit a number, but we don't know how to get there. And I remember it was 531.
135, yeah.
135, and you sat us down and you would do the John Maxwell, and we'd have these learning lessons, and you would get up and you would just teach with passion. You would get so fired up about helping us be our best. And how do you do that within COVID, knowing, I mean, you're in the real estate market, so you're in a face-to-face environment, you have a ready, aim, fire, you have a class that you're teaching, you have people who are all these different walks of life. How do you get them to shift their mind?
So there's a process that it was probably 2003, looking back. Gary Keller, I have met him personally. I've got to interact with him at some level over the years, but he is definitely my number one most favorite intelligent, kind, character-based leader in our industry of anyone I've ever met. And I love him because he doesn't even realize, but he's so good at what he does. He's made me a better father, husband, and business person. And I'm kind of far away from him in that sense. But the way he teaches, he's written some incredible books that I read and reread often. And there's a particular process that was I call it a process. I don't know if he intended it to be one, but when I read it and it hit me, and then I was able to incorporate it in lessons that I get to teach with people about being their best. And yes, sometimes we start in the business context with this, but it touches every facet, every spoke on somebody's wheel in their life. It's a process that's powerful no matter what. And if you wouldn't mind, Mary, if you can pull up that picture of the helicopter I had sent over, I would love to share a story about this process. So in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, that is the name, we call it the Red Book in Keller Williams, right? It is a book. It was his first book. He has since then, with his key executives, written many. But he, in the beginning stages of the book, page 72 to be exact, he starts going through a mindset that millionaire real estate agents have through his research over agents that are millionaire based producers in income. They're high level producers. And this again was back in 2003. And this helicopter isn't in his book, but I like to use it metaphorically because it ties the 9 steps of the mindset that Gary talks about. And so what I call the process now is the 9 ways the millionaire real estate agent thinks. Yet anytime that I share it, I share it in a way that it doesn't have to be only for people that desire to be millionaire real estate agents. It doesn't. It's not limited to real estate. It's not limited to income, right? It literally is a process for life. And so the way that I coach and teach now, and you mentioned Ready, Aim, Fire. We have a new series of modules called Future, where we have a 4th phase now that we're going into, that even some of my classmates and students that have been with me are like, oh my gosh, what if we went this far out in the program now? So now in the Future program, I teach people how to retire. And the very first module is you got to pick a retirement date. I don't even care how old you are or where you are in your life. We are going to figure out what that date is and map out everything from your present state of mind, situation, financial situation, career seat that you have, and we're going to figure out how to get there. So I love working on that. But the very first module in Ready, which is the first series of 10 modules, it's called the 9 Ways the Millionaire Real Estate Agent Thinks. And for these steps that I'll briefly cover, I want all the listeners or viewers today to put themselves in that pilot seat, in that CH-47 Chinook, right? We're all pilots right now, right? So put everyone's there. Mary, you're a pilot. I'm a pilot. Anybody that's watching or listening, you're a pilot in this moment. And these 9 ways are steps. They build off each other. And the very first one, which we've all heard this from lots of readings and listenings, Mary, you bring this home with people more than anybody that I know in the world. And every one of these steps, by the way, starts with the word think. It is mindset. It starts inside of all of us, right? And so it is think powered by a big why. The very first step that Gary says, if you want these results in your life through habits and actions and things that we've all got to do after the mind is ready for anything, you've got to have a why. You've got to have a passion within you that's going to help you take action and overcome obstacles and get to that end zone, arrive at that finish line, see that dream realized. So think powered by a big why is this first one. We'll come back to the pilot in a second so I can show you how this even fits a pilot of an aircraft. But keep thinking of yourself as a pilot while we go through the 9. The next mindset is think big goals and big models. Once you have a passion within you, your mind and your world is ready to really set an educated, stretched, incredible goal supported by a model to get there, a path, a plan to get there. That's the second step, right, in the mindset game. It moves to the third step, which is called think possibilities. Possibilities is no more than you looking yourself in the mirror and saying, do I believe now in myself to move forward from the passion I've identified, the goal that I set, the model that I put in place? Do I believe now that I can do this? That moves into the fourth mindset, which is think action. Now we're ready to put that first foot in front of the other again and again, right? Action, it is now time to take. With action, the fifth step is think without fear. Fear won't attack people that aren't in action. Doesn't need to. You're already down, right? So think without fear is the next mindset that you've got to win, that you've got to be really strong in, regardless of what part of your life or where you're heading in it. And then it goes to progress, right? More people. So once people have a purpose, they've got a goal, they have a model, they believe in themselves, they've started taking that action, they may get tripped up with fear and learn how to overcome it, get tripped up again, overcome it. That's just kind of a thing people go through. We all do. Then you get to this progress state where if you don't have the endurance, the stamina that should be pre-built if you follow this process and you did it well and correctly, if you run out of stamina or you're the kind of person that thinks everything has to be perfect all the time to the point where it could paralyze you, this is a step that I find people get stuck in that state, right? Once you understand that this path is progress, not perfection, and it's not paralyzation, it literally is progress all the time. Then you get to step 7, which things get real fun. Now it's think competitively and strategically, right? You've overcome a lot of the fundamental things to put foundation under all of our lives. Now you get to get competitive. You get to beat yourself every day. You get to be a better version of yourself every day. You get to get strategic and get better at strategy and figure out lanes to get you where you want to go. And then you move to number 8, which is the standard. Think standards. Now we get to hold that bar high for ourselves, for people around us, children, significant others, family members, colleagues, peers, mentors, people new into our industry, new into your life. It's about teaching them to have real standards that keep them good and right and straight and narrow in their life. And then it ends with think service. When you nail the first 8 and you get here, that's when fulfillment comes. That's when the reward hits, because the service we get to provide is that difference that we make in anything and everything we do. As a dad, as a husband, as a parent, as a coach, as a business leader for me, as a spiritual leader in my faith, right? That's where I'm at this year. And I wasn't there in March. I love that I can look at myself in the mirror and say, I'm providing a service because I've got my mind right. I know what my why is. I have a goal. My model is set and in motion. I do believe as a person that I'll hit it. I take action every day, even when others won't. I'm in action mode. I do have fear, and I've learned how to process myself through it with the help of people like you, your organization, other books I read, TED Talks I watch. I just fill myself in an environment that teach me to overcome that. I don't look for perfection. I'm not paralyzed. I realize it's one foot in front of the other. I'm competitive. I want to be better every day in my life for myself. I'm strategic as heck. I want to be the best at my craft. I have a high standard of myself, and it all comes down to giving back to my wife, kids, you, people I know, and people I don't know. And so I get real passionate, Mary, because this process alone, when I talk with people, this is in my mind. Even today, speaking with you, I'm looking for on this ladder, if you will, this step 1 through 9, where is somebody stuck? Then I identify it and I'm like, do you believe you're stuck? Like if they're not taking action, yet they still believe in themselves, I know we're stuck on level 4, the way I use it in a process. If they don't believe in themselves, I know I'm stuck on level 3. Right? If they don't have a goal, well, they're stuck on number 2. If they don't even have a purpose today, then we can't even set goals right and build models, to be honest. So let's go back to this pilot. We're all pilots, and you tell me if this fits a helicopter pilot in this real world rescue mission, right? This is a real world rescue mission. You can see it. It just looks like it's fragile, right? It looks a little bit scary. But as a pilot, in order to be successful, somebody told that pilot, hey, I have a mission for you. Here it is. Here's where you're going. Here's what you've got to do. And you don't have time to think about it. You got to go now, right? This person didn't have a week to plan this, right? It was in the moment, get in there, fire it up, and go. This person has to have passion and a sense of purpose to be successful, without a doubt. That pilot has to, or you won't be successful. I won't be successful in it. This pilot has to have a goal to be successful, has a model, right? A structure, a system to be able to do this in that moment. This pilot has to believe in him or herself in order to be successful. Think possible. They got to think that it's possible, right? They've got to get into action mode to save these people's lives. They have to think action. They've got to do it no matter what obstacle surfaces, from the time they take off to the time they get back and land safely with the people that they were committed to save. They've got to think without fear. Does that mean they weren't nervous about this? Oh, I'm sure they were, him or her, right? Yet, they had to think without fear in the sense that it wasn't going to stop them from being successful. It wasn't going to paralyze him or her from being a poor or bad producing pilot in that moment. They had to realize that it probably wasn't going to be a perfect flight. Heck, look at the landing platform. That's not a perfect structure to land on, right? If you're looking for a perfect place to pick them up, good luck. You're not going to find it. And so they couldn't look for perfection, and they couldn't look, for or find themselves paralyzed in this moment. They had to think in this moment that this is a state of mind that I had to realize that it's about progress. One step, one moment, 1 mile at a time, 1 foot in elevation at a time, one human being at a time. It's progress. Then it gets into think competitively and strategically. Mary, they've got to be extremely competitive and very strategic to be successful. Whoever that pilot was in that moment had to have mastered the mindset of being competitive and strategic in that moment, in that situation. This pilot had to have one hell of a set of standards for themselves. They had to have. And that's the 8th step. Finally, they're serving in a way that people probably don't realize. This is service to save another's life of someone that they probably don't even know. We don't even know if they're of the same nation, culture, ethnic background. It didn't matter to this pilot. And so when I teach the 9 ways the millionaire real estate agent thinks as a process, I help this as a self process first. I use that with me, right? There's no way I can be in massive action if I've lost my sense of purpose, if I don't have a goal, if I've lost confidence within me, right? Then if I have those 3, then I can take the action forward. I see people skip steps on this sometimes, and I've got to move them back a tier or multiple tiers to help them get really powerful. But when you ask, questions about industry or even this year in specific, I have leaned on these steps with people more than any other tool in my toolbox. I love the photo of the pilot as a metaphor, but Mary, these have helped me this year in ways that I hope my passion demonstrates in the call, right? It is crystal clear for me that I help people get back on track with these 9 steps. And thank Gary Keller that it came in a real estate book, and it turns out I use it in life and everywhere I can find a vehicle to use it in.
Just your passion. I said that your passion is like none other. You fire people up. And I'm looking at the pilot and imagining myself as a pilot going, oh crap, So many times people think I need to be here to here, and they forget all the steps along the way. And you said something about fear. You don't feel fear in action. You feel it when you're not in action. Is that correct?
But fear doesn't attack people that are not in action because it doesn't have to. When you're stuck or knocked down, it doesn't have to show up in your life, because we all, and I hear this with people, like they have one situation in life that starts creating pressure, and if their mind isn't right, all of a sudden the situation from left field shows up. It could be a family related thing, then it comes to a career related thing. Now maybe it's a COVID situation we're in, and it just feels like we start getting hit left and right, kicked when we're down, right? And usually that's when we're in a state of motion. We're going forward. I think from an evil perspective, when people are already trapped and stuck, the fear doesn't have to penetrate anymore because it already won, right? It only attempts to penetrate when you're fighting and there's resistance of the fear in life. And right, so I help people, and I celebrate people that have overcome the fear. I help people that are in it, that are still in that battle. And I certainly will stand by somebody that's knocked down and help them realize, no. We're going to go back to tier 1. We're going to get some purpose back again. We're going to get a new goal for you. We're going to get some confidence rebuilt. We're going to take that step. And when fear attempts, and it will, to come back in, you have me with you in your circle, or someone else that you trust in your circle, or books or audios or pictures or your children, we've got to bulletproof our environment with so much power. I'm going to talk about 2 internal tanks later I almost want to go into that now, but I'll wait for later on with that, because it plays an important role later in the discussion. But I want to help people that are down, that don't need fear to penetrate, that are moving, that have a lot of fear, and that are successful. And the help is just acknowledge them and celebrate them, because there are people in all of our worlds that are in one of those 3 categories right now.
So people love the story, because you don't just wake up one day and go, I know the 9 steps and I'm going to help you get there. And you're a pilot, and you are piloting your life, and you went through almost 10 years of the military. You transition, and from where you were to where you are now, did you ever struggle with self-belief? Did you ever struggle with those fears?
I do. Yes, a lot. And yes, still, the one thing that you and Eric and Rapport have helped me realize, since 2004, when I took my first course, Leadership Breakthrough 1 at Rapport Leadership International, I realized how powerful vulnerability and transparency are with ourselves first, and with people that we have connections with and relationships with second. Because there is nothing more powerful outside of God and faith, and hope for a better life, than you having someone on the other side of a conversation that doesn't judge you, that will be vulnerable and that wants you to be vulnerable in return, because real, REAL, that is power. It is incredibly power. Fake, smoke screen, surface, manipulating, lying, cheating, all those other things that a lot of people have developed as a habit, they don't get us there. They prevent us from getting there wherever there is. So real, to me, is vulnerable, is transparent. And even though you and I haven't get to see each other in person for a long time, this is the closest we've had in years. I'm going to be the same real person that you knew the first day you met me. It's because I've learned, rapport has helped me. I used to be the kind of person that would hide my feelings, hold back, right? And you don't have a chance when you go through those programs. You guys as trainers have a way to get it out of you. And thank God I was open to being a student and allowing that to happen, because it changed me forever, even to this day. Didn't matter if it was military, my relationship with Masie as a husband, she's my best friend. As a father, I make mistakes there all the time. I have 4 kids that are all in their own lanes. And sometimes I think they should be in this lane and they go on that lane, and it trips me up. And it doesn't matter financially. I've crashed there before. I've had different roles in professionally. Some I was let go, some I opted to let go, finding myself on where I was really supposed to be. I mean, it's being real has helped me with everything.
So I know you as one of the most real people ever, most authentic. You just wear your heart on your sleeve and you tell people like it is, whether they like to hear it or not. And one of the things I know about you is that you are so strong in your values, in your beliefs, in what you know is right. And life happens, and with all of the transition, knowing that there are people who don't believe like you, they don't have the same values, they don't have the same mindset, they definitely don't have the same beliefs. How do you align? How do you create a culture? Because you're known for making and creating amazing cultures, but it's made up of all different unique individuals. How do you do that?
It is. And you just hit the nail on the head. It's all made up of unique individuals. It is in everything that we do. It doesn't matter if I'm in a small group with my church, if I'm in a classroom being a teacher, or in the student seat. It doesn't matter if I'm working with my colleagues and peers, even competitors in the same industry, right? It does in my own household, right? Everybody is unique. They're individuals. They're incredible. And the thing that I've learned in every area of my life, it doesn't just live in business, but when I have an opportunity to build something or become a leader in something that needs to transition from where it might be to a better place, I go in and I do not judge people. I listen. I respect them, even in situations where we may have different views. I will appreciate their view. There's a difference between agreeing and appreciating, right? I don't have to agree with someone. Even we're all voting now, right? You mentioned everybody needs to vote, and they do. And there's many situations to vote in, but there's certainly the president of the United States that's going to be selected, whether it be President Trump again or president to be potentially Biden. And even though I might go one way, I respect and appreciate people that might be on the other side. And that's the power of our country and our world, right? You don't ever, in my opinion, have the opportunity to maximize a culture if it's always challenging someone else's belief to be like yours. And in that approach, disrespecting them almost. You can't, it'll never come together synergistically if all of it can't be living and breathing in a company. Even in the spiritual topic, there are many faiths. There are many kinds of beliefs that people had. You know what? I have mine, and I believe in mine for a reason. But that doesn't mean I'm right. I don't know. That's the fun thing about faith. I don't know. It doesn't say fact. It's faith, right? So someone else has a different faith. Thank goodness they have one. I think everybody should have a faith of some sort in a higher being that inspires them to move way past this one earthly life that we get, right? And if I'm wrong in my faith, I won't know anyway. But if I'm not wrong, I nailed it, right? So I err to I'm going to move forward and be in that space. But when it comes to people, that is the culture. It's the people. If you love them and you lead them and you respect them and appreciate them, and it's not a dictatorship, leadership is a 360-degree vehicle, from the entry level position to the executive team in the company, to boards of directors, to investors, independent contractors, employee-employer relationships. It doesn't matter, because the common denominator is the human being. And when people learn to love human beings and respect them and treat them fairly, their talents just ooze out of them. And if I were to give leaders suggestions or recommendations, you want that. I want the best version of everybody I'm around in my life, the best version. And you won't get it as a leader if you don't give your best, if you don't give, if you don't listen, if you don't respect. So we do things in a cultural sense, Mary, that brings the best of the human race, of the human being out, in the training room, in the way the staff is structured, and how communication is handled. When challenge arises, how we overcome that, and we focus on solutions. You know, I'm 47 years old now. I used to be so emotional when somebody would do something that I would view as like dumb or stupid. You know, I would get so mad, and it was the immature leader in me, because I didn't know how to handle it. I didn't know how to slow things down for a little bit of time and overcome or understand why they might be in that state, and then reconnect with them without putting a wall up. I was great at putting walls up, and when they're there, there's no, they won't even listen to other ideas, right? And so culture is getting those walls down, right? It's having somebody say, man, I love being around Jason. Even when he doesn't like my idea, he's who I'd like to be sitting next to. Or if I get knocked down, I want that guy to be by me, right? Or if I'm struggling in my faith, I want Jason to be one of the ones that prays for me. If my production is off and I'm struggling provided for my family, I want him to teach a systems class on how I can be more productive, right? These are the things that I do to connect, to help people grow in business. But the first connection is the friendship. It's the relationship. It's the honest, transparent, vulnerable, effective communicating style that I believe I've learned over my life. It was not something that just showed up for me. It was the military chapter. It was being married to a wonderful woman for 28 years, raising 4 children, working in real estate, being with you at Rapport Leadership International, being here today. I just continue to get better at loving people, and nothing is going to change me.
Well, and looking at just how much you love people and knowing that, and yet you alluded to, there's this strong piece. And we don't learn how to lead, we don't learn how to develop unless we go through adversity. That's how we develop. That's how we go, oh, you know, I don't like that about me. Or I like that about me. That worked, that didn't work. So what were some of your key lessons in life that it didn't go very well, that taught you to be who you are today?
You know, I love that question when it's asked. And a lot of times, and I ask it too at times for people, and I find that people will go to business struggles, failures, knockdowns. And I've had, believe me, we can probably do this every day of the week for a year, and I can talk about business failures that I've done, mistake after mistake, right? But that's not who shaped me. They've helped, don't get me wrong, those types of issues. But the fact that I'm a dad, right, and I have 4 children. And at one point, I only had one, my firstborn, Makayla, who's 25 today. And then learning how to be a dad with one baby girl, right? Those lessons and were what they were. And then when she was 7, my second daughter, Courtney, was born. Less than 2 years later, my third daughter, LeAnn, and now I've got 3, and learning how to help 3 children, still all young ladies, girls, and trying to figure out how to raise them, Masie and I both. And then Kyle comes along, oh, now there's a boy. Well, I'm getting good at raising girls. Now, how do I do this with a boy? And just learning those things. But that was a lot of fun. But I was a bad dad for a little while with my firstborn. And I hit the ground hard because I left who I was because I was frustrated with who she was becoming. And that was my mistake. She was, when I look back at when she was born, she had a tumor and a cyst. She had a procedure, a surgery at 5 months old that she had an 80% chance of not making it through, and she did. Then the doctors told us that she would never learn like a normal kid. She was going to have a learning disability that was going to be very, very challenging for her to move into her elementary years, middle school, high school, and becoming an adult. And one of the good things that Masie and I did is we never let her know that. So she did graduate high school. She's 5 classes away from getting her college degree today. She rode horses competitively. They said she wouldn't be able to focus for a longer than 3-second period. But yet we have her hunter jumper running and jumping with horses for 60-second rides, right? You lose your focus on a horse, you could die potentially, right? She always overcame. I, for many of my years, didn't understand. I wanted to, as a dad, as a husband, to have a traditional family, what I defined as a traditional family. She fell in love with a woman. I was upset by that. We talk about being vulnerable and transparency. I was. We got into it at such a level that one night in the middle of the night, she left us. She took her stuff in front of my other 3 kids. Masie and I were crying. We were screaming at each other. It was something that I will remember the rest of my life. It will not leave my memory. Today, I'm thankful for it, but I do regret the way I behaved that day. And we didn't get to hear from her. I didn't know where she was for a year, right? I didn't know where she was. That's my daughter. She got into some trouble. She went down a path with somebody. Ultimately, that one didn't work out. She fell in love with another woman. She's married to her. That woman is in the military. She takes care of my baby. My baby trains dogs for diabetic children today. She is the most like me in her heart, but I was a jerk to her because I wanted her to be on one path in her life, and she fell in love with another, and I didn't respect it. And here I am talking about respecting everybody and not judging and loving unconditional and all that stuff. Well, I was that before, and I am that after. But it took a little while for us to restore our relationship. She was at my house yesterday. She hugged me so tight. She'll snuggle with me at 25 years old. She loves me. I love her. I love her wife. And yet I behaved in a way that was wrong. And I get to own that forever. And thank God she forgave me, because I wouldn't want to be doing anything in my life without my family.
But that's where grace comes in. That's where forgiveness comes in. And I love that you went there, and I know how painful, because I remember the call way back in to be, and I know Makayla, and I know her heart, and I know your family's heart. And we as parents, I would say it's when we're the teacher, there's so many opportunities in life where we have to be the student. We teach something and life goes, really? How much do you really believe in that? Are you truly going to come from integrity and be what you are teaching other people? And all this, and it's the things that mean the most to us, where we see our character. And it's in those times though, when I say grace and forgiveness, it's owning it. It's like, man, I freaking fell down. Yeah. So how were you able to build and heal that relationship?
She gave me a window of opportunity. She did. She brought her now wife to meet us. And Masie and I both decided, Masie, to her credit, thank God she forgave me too, because she didn't behave like I did. She never judges. She is better than I am always. I can speak and do well, and I walk a great walk, but nobody is better at it in this world than my wife. Nobody. If there's a leader in this house, it's her, to be honest. She's not here right now, but those of you that know her, or if you don't, you want to, because she's incredible. But she gave a window of opportunity, and I asked for forgiveness. I owned my errors. And the nice thing is, thank God, one day didn't erase the up to 18 years I had as her dad before that. and that I've got to be back in that seat after that. And I would do everything for her. She's a wonderful girl. She is a giver. She is so kind. And I'm so grateful. And speaking of my children and the topic of overcoming the art of justification, I call it that because I believe people are making an art out of it, right? They're developing a skill around this. One of the things that I learned quickly with this is all four of my children, now I understand that they all have their own lanes, that they want to go in different directions. So Makayla taught me that. And so with Courtney and LeAnn and Kyle, it's so much easier now, right? With child number 2, 3, and 4. And I'm not going to make that error again. That doesn't mean we don't have standards for our children, that we don't want them to have good character and ethics and education to remain important. We still have standards in there, but we appreciate their ideals and preferences in life like never before. And when I went to a fear-based place in March, especially when it was announced that our state went into quarantine and things were shut down, and I'm in the state of Nevada where, you know, they stopped sports, entertainment shows, concerts, the Strip, and because we're not a state income tax-based state, which is great for employment and business, it hurts our state financially because it depends on some revenues that come to them in a different way that might be different from state to state. So I got real nervous about our industry. Oh my gosh, what's this going to mean? Started preparing for the worst, getting leaner financially, saving more, ensuring that we avoid debt, which are all good things anyway, right? Yeah, I watched my 4 children who for 3 of them, school stopped like mid-year, right? What were they going to do? You know, they came home and then they weren't sure all summer long. Like, how are we going to go back to school? What does that mean? Do I get to see my friends? Do I not? How do I learn online? How do I, which we're a full-blown distant learning state or our school district is now. And they started getting bored pretty quick, lonely pretty quick. They had friends that struggled because today with phones and social media, they still could interact from their own bedrooms. But I saw things potentially going into their mind. Masie got nervous. I got nervous. And then something clicked a couple weeks in, and it started with my kids. Courtney, my soon-to-be 18-year-old tomorrow, she decided, well, I'm going to go to college anyway. This is how she handled it. I'm going to go to college anyway. By the way, she's the senior class president this year. She plays on a travel volleyball team at 18 years old. She's a 4.0 plus student. She works several days a week, wants to, saves tons of money, is learning how to financially prepare herself, opens her first investment account tomorrow on her 18th birthday. I mean, has no debt, car that's paid off, right? I mean, she is doing incredible in that sense. But she says, Dad, Mom, how can I start college now? And so she's going through her senior year and started school at the same time because she's like, I've got some time on my hands and I don't want to go into this trap that she starts seeing her peers go into. So I was like, oh my gosh, she didn't use COVID to justify just chilling, you know, or she's gotten in shape. She's actually worked out more. She's studying harder. Her grades have improved. I'm like, man, I love that. Kyle, my 10-year-old son, he comes to us literally about a month ago. One of our goals this year was to get him a 4-wheeler. He likes off-road vehicles. He likes to drive on trails and go camping. He's kind of an outdoorsy kid, wants to fish and do those things. Well, he comes to us and says, Mom, Dad, can we make a shift? I don't really want a 4-wheeler anymore. Could you buy me a 1969 Charger car?
And he's 10 years old.
He's 10 years old, that's beat up. Find me a barn car because I want to restore it. And we're like, huh? Well, then he starts showing us some of the people that do the classic car, muscle car restoration that he's been watching and studying. Wow. And then he went and found, he goes, could you buy me this now? And he literally yesterday it was delivered, this huge box with 280 parts where you get to build an engine from scratch. He's building a vehicle engine at 12 years old. Right. And so he's finding something else to occupy his mind that's very beneficial. LeAnn, who just turned 16, she's an incredible athlete, plays football, women's football, runs track, already being pursued by colleges. She's going into her junior year, right? She wanted a personal private trainer to just bring her body to the best shape it can. And this girl, Mary, man, it's incredible. If I did 10% of what she does physically, I would be world-class fit. She is just incredible. And my daughter, Makayla, inspires me a lot this year. I mentioned earlier she had a tumor and a cyst when she was born that she overcome. Well, several months ago, she has a new tumor.
Mm.
And she was working for a particular vet at the time who, when Kayla shared the update, the following Monday, they terminated her because they wrongfully, I believe, but I don't get back into challenge. I move forward in life. But they didn't think that because she was going to have so many medical situations she was going to be dealing with that she wouldn't be able to meet her time frame obligations. From a business perspective, I understand it. From a character perspective, and a young lady who you recruited over and brought her on to do this too, I struggle with that, right? But there's lots of ways to look at things. But what does she do? So she comes over right after she was let go at 8:30 in the morning. She drives over here to our house, hugs me and cries for several hours on my arms like a baby. Like, thank God I get to be a dad in this moment, and we just support her and listen and nurture and care for her. She goes home. The next morning, she paints a painting, never painted a day in her life. She decided to paint. She sends us a picture for us, for me and her mom. It's in our home now, right? She says, I got something for you. And we looked at it and we're like, Makayla, that's incredible. So I wrote a post on Facebook, which I don't normally do those kind of posts. And yet my intention was to show people that she paints. And within 24 hours, 44 people reached out to her and wanted to purchase a painting from her.
Wow.
So she starts painting, loses her job one day in COVID, scared, right? Wants to do her part in her household with her wife, and income start, oh, what am I going to do to pay our rent and those kind of things? Well, it took her 24 hours, Mary, from being here crying in my arms to have already at 25 years old, didn't use any of that to justify staying down. She completely shifts to a different lane and falls in love with painting. Right. So I'm sitting here looking at my 10-year-old son, both my teens in high school, my junior and senior with LeAnn and Courtney, and my daughter who has another medical challenge that was, given a set of cards this year with COVID that were pretty difficult, and yet unfazed by it. And so when we connected and we said, what could we talk about? And I'm like, you know what? I keep hearing both sides of this. I hear people that are not using this year to justify getting knocked down and staying down. And I hear people that are. And so I'm on a personal mission to help people realize that I don't want anybody to justify any of this that's going on in a way that impacts what they can do, who they can be, what they can achieve, because we're still alive. The sun still came up today. We can still do great. We may get to go left instead of right. We may get to go through instead of around, or around instead of through, right? But stopping is not the answer. Crashing and staying down is not the answer. And then using this new skill that people are reinforcing because they're allowing it to protect them in the way from being down and staying down. And I'm like, no, Jason isn't going to be that friend that lays on the ground with you for long. I'll go down there for a minute and be with you. And then we're both standing up. And so I want to help people stop justifying. And yes, it doesn't mean I don't appreciate the challenge. There's more challenge this year, and it's easier for all of us to give in and quit. It really is. This year has made it easy if we want to. Yet, how bad do you want what's not easy? How bad do you want what's on the other side of tomorrow for you, for your family? How bad do you want to retire? How bad do you want to be successful? How bad do you want to serve? How bad do you want to lead? Because those that say real bad, Jason, I want to real bad win right now. Awesome. Let's get up and let's bring that energy to start competing the energy that's taking people down right now.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I have a couple comments, but before I do, just looking at the time, if you have questions for Jason, will you put that, for those of you who are live here in the webinar, put that in the chat, comments or questions. If you're Facebook, we can't see you, we'll answer them afterwards. But I want to go back, Jason, the examples you gave of your kids. It is because mom and dad do the same thing. They can't mirror something that they don't know. And it's okay, as you said, it's okay to fall down. March was tough. What we know is that it might get tough again. And you said something earlier, there's one thing about fear and there's another thing about concern. It's okay to have concern. But what your kids did was they mirrored the teachings that you've taught them, that no matter how hard it gets, we're going to shift, we're going to pivot, we're going to find a solution, we're going to fall down, but we're going to get back up. It's okay to feel what you're feeling, but let's do something. So going back into the pilot, being the pilot of your life, what are the words that you really want to get out? Your message, what do you want people to know?
Well, two big things. You brought it up and we were talking earlier before we got on this with everybody. What I have learned to define differently that's helped me with myself, my wife, my kids, and lots of other people is that there is a thing out there called fear and another thing out there called concern that you had just touched on, right? And they are different, but they acknowledge some of the same things that we're paying attention to. But the challenge is some people have gone to fear instead of concern, when if they just shift to concern, they'll move forward, because fear creates that paralyzing outcome for people. It is consuming them. It is taking away vision and dreams and success options. It's getting rid of ultimately the level 1 in the 9 ways, right? It's removing passion from people. Fear is just chaos, right? It is dangerous. It's worse than the damn virus, and the virus is bad. Forgive me for saying that way. I have underlying conditions. I've got to be careful with COVID, but I do believe that fear, with underlying condition or not, can take you out faster. It can spread faster. It is, by the way, and from what I see. And so some people are aware, like you and I are, about COVID, about the election tomorrow that starts, officially, even though there's pre-voting and things going on. The tragedies with fires and hurricanes and weather related things, the potential risk of war and, country versus country situations that are going on, the racist stuff that we've seen this year that is just unacceptable, right? All of that impacts some of it, all of it, others. But that's enough to get people to go fear-based, that ultimately, if they don't pay attention to that, they're going to crash, and people are. Yet concerned, I'm aware of these same things, but concern doesn't paralyze. It says you're aware, just like fear, right? But it doesn't paralyze. It just means that you're aware and you're prepared for these things, yet you've given yourself a mindset opportunity to move forward. Still, our real estate team, we have Zoom calls every single Thursday. I haven't seen some of my own teammates that live here locally in months in person. I see them every week on Zoom, and we get on soapbox talks and almost lecture like when it comes to saving money and being debt free and having income streams and working harder, doubling down on production. In March, if someone said, do you think this will be your best year ever in your career? I'd be like, there's no way. I'm not sure how we might even survive. That's where I was there. Mary, to date, we're not even done with the year. It's already been the best year of my life financially in my business through 10 months, over any year in 20 years. 10 months by 200,000 in commission income. We've already beat my second best year with 2 months to go. And I know it goes back to all these things we're talking about in my heart, but in March, no way. In April, when I realized that, is COVID taking us down this path, or are we taking us down this path? I'm like, oh, no. We are. I am. No more. We're going to see if we can't make this our best year. And we doubled down. We reached out to more people than we normally do. We loved on them more. We stayed in touch more effectively, and they needed our service more than any other year, is what we came to realize. And we've been executing at the end of the day. So one of my hopes for everybody that hears or watches this is, if you're in a place of fear that's paralyzing, please consider stepping out of that. And that doesn't mean ignoring the issues that are creating fear. Step into concern so that you remain in touch with the issues and pick yourself up and move back forward again, 1 foot in front of the time. Because this year can be your best year still with 2 months left. It can still be if you get back in control of your lane and you stay in charge of your passion and purpose, and you be the best version of yourself. I be the best version of myself. That's one of my goals today, is get people out of fear and get them into concern so that they don't feel like we're ignorant or ignoring the world, because it is scary. There's still more to come, right? And yet, if we're ready, let it come and still be your best version tomorrow morning and the next day and the next day, right? And so that's one. The other thing is we all have 2 internal tanks. I believe this, that are inside us. One is fed from our mind internally. The other is fed from the outside, right, coming in. There's this passion tank. Imagine you had 2 fuel tanks in you, like that pilot has fuel tanks on that aircraft. I have 2 within me, 2 fuel tanks. One of them that my mind feeds with passion, where I'm going to make sure, Mary, that doesn't matter what freaking wall shows up, that tank has more fuel than the other one that is fear. Right? Fear comes from outside influences, and it will produce energy for you, and it's not a good one. It will give fuel to you, but it's not good fuel, right? It's unhealthy mentally, spiritually, financially, relationships, success and career, education, stubbornness. Like it'll feed the crap that we all can't have. We're all human. We can be happy. We can be sad. We can be awake. We can be asleep. We can be driven. We can be not. Right? We have options that we get to decide. COVID doesn't decide for us. And so I want people to figure out an environment that puts the damn passion back in that tank where it's full. So when the fear tank starts coming up a little bit, it doesn't win when you hit the gas today, right? The passion fuel needs to drive you, not the fear fuel. And so I hope, right, everybody shifts from fear and gets to concern and puts fuel back in the passion tank and shuts and drowns out and gets that fear tank to 0.
Woo! I'm like, preach it. This is why I love Jason Lindstrom. Oh my gosh. Jason, your heart, your passion, the message that you have, you inspire people, not just inspire, you inspire them to take action, to think differently. And I love the analogy between the fear and the concern and the tanks, and fill up our passion tank. We can't control what's happening outside of us, but we can control what happens inside of us. And I have Frank said, Jason, thank you so much for sharing such a wonderful story of your life and family. I admire you so much. Keep sharing that positive attitude. Frank Harrison, I love you. Diana Jeffron, so proud of you, Jason. Your kiddos watch you and learn from you both. Sending you so much love. You're such an inspiration to so many. Misty says, Jason, you're a powerhouse as usual. And I just want to thank you again for being my mentor. I would not be where I'm at today without you. And I am just honored. I listened to you and I'm like, oh, I need Jason in my life more often. And thank you for getting up, for shaking it off, for inspiring and continuing to do the work no matter how hard it is. And now you have this huge support. You have this cheerleading section with your kids. You've raised many Jasons and Masies out there. And together we're going to change this world.
Yes, we are. One person at a time, one breath at a time, one step at a time. That's
right. That's right. Well, thank you again. Thank you everyone for being on here, and have an amazing rest of your week. This is being recorded, so we'll put it up on YouTube, and it is live on the Facebook page. So we will see you in a couple weeks. Jason, thanks again. And I absolutely love you. Give Masie a big hug for me.
I will. I love you very much. I miss you. Please hug Eric for me too.
I will.
Okay. We'll see you soon.
Bye. Thanks, everyone.